Get a free education in Byron Bay culture on Bay FM 99.9.
Yeah, you're tuned to Bay FM 999. And we've got another half hour on the show, just a little under. I'm going to be talking to Hugo the Poet in just a moment. Hugo, a rapper and spoken word artist from the UK, residing in Melbourne, Australia, performs live with a focus on spellbinding freestyle and improvised poetry, and has done many festivals with himself and also with his sometimes partner Treats, and they've done quite a lot of amazing stuff, a lot of commentary and social commentary, and we're going to be talking to him after a track that I'm going to play, talking about some of his new tracks and what's going on down there in Melbourne, especially because it's relevant. He and I talked about this just the other day when we organised the interview, this whole slur against the African community and supposed African gangs that's been going from the Turnbull government, which is clearly and cynically a bit of a ploy to attack the Labor government in Victoria, I would say. But certainly issues like this are issues that Hugo tackles all the time. So we'll be talking to him. But let's have a listen to a track first of his. This one's called DNA here on Bay FM.
My DNA strands are equivalent to string instruments, known to compose flows and intricate symphonies, taken from the sacred to the villainous infamy, midway between primordial state and living in syntropy. Criminal mimicry got logged and triple copied on page. Cop lights as spotlights, I'm often on stage. King of the jungle, right, you should watch for the rage. But a lion will chew its own tail off in a cage. A moth in the flame, my wings burn in a candle. God saw this human form from the earth as a handful, a vandal whose scalp will be burst with a scalpel. Anyone delicate or discerning is mangled. This planet hasn't got any time for the weak. The predator sees prey as just some fibers of meat, a message to the sensitive who arrive in the street. Shine the light of your soul, but it might just invite us to eat. Only so many times you can rise from the fire like a fucking phoenix. Oh gee, shit, you ain't original gangster, you just another remix. God's tongue recoils from the trouble he licks. That's the code contained in my DNA. Double helix, genetic, this mental state must be pre-inherited. Meek, fuck being meek, the meek don't inherit shit. My potential is an eternal flame that was never lit. This world was looking for something, but I was never it.
Many of these young people
Bay FM.
so they're not coping well in school. They may not have the family support that many Australians do. So they've decided that they're locked out. They have no opportunity, so they'll go and take what they want.
Yes, that's Hugo the Poet. Sorry, I interrupted that accidentally there because it's kind of important what was happening on the end of that track there as well. And I have Hugo in the studio. Well, not in the studio. He was in the studio sort of etherically. Good morning, Hugo. You're talking to us from Melbourne. How are you doing down there?
Yeah, good morning, Nick. Thanks so much for having me on the show, and thanks for playing some songs out today.
It's great
hello
pleasure.
to all the people in beautiful Byron Bay.
Wonderful. Well, I've had you on the show before, and I think you're known to quite a few people up here from some of the work you've done, especially people who go to, say, the Rainbow Festival, where I know you've played a number of times yourself, and with your sometime partner Treats, who works with you. But you've got a collection of new songs, which is why I sort of connected with you coming across these, and we'll play a couple more before the end of the show. That DNA song, though, and the little tag at the end there, what's the song about? What's it referring to there?
Okay, so just to give a bit of background, this whole album that's coming up is influenced and trying to get inside the head of youths who I've come in contact with recently, working in the youth justice education space over the last year, and it's been a really eye-opening experience. Lots of experiences that run the gamut from very, very positive engagement and very interesting, enlightening insights into certain demographics of society, and all the way through to some quite scary experiences as well. But I found the experience of working in this sector just really inspiring lyrically, and I've just tried to. You gave a little deal at the beginning that I often deal with sort of political things, or even the other thing that I try to do is kind of spiritually uplifting content. This isn't really that. This is kind of branching out into trying to deal with and come to terms with this the people who, unlike me, do not have the benefit of privilege and have been victims of serious trauma in their lives, and a result of that is certain decisions that they might be more prone to take end up putting them on the wrong side of the law.
Yes.
And they end up in the criminal justice system. And it's just an attempt to deal with that. How does that work? I have no experience of that growing up, even though I wasn't the best kid in the world, but I definitely really didn't break the law in any serious way.
So is that what, referring to DNA, that's basically one way of looking at it, is your DNA was privileged in a sense, and many of these people that you're talking about that you've come in contact with, these young people, have, in a sense, a different DNA in them.
Precisely.
Yes.
Yeah, trying to, and when we say DNA, really we're talking effectively about the epigenetic effects of intergenerational trauma.
Yeah.
And that affects so many sectors of our society. You could pick any group, and there'll be a sector of it that is victims of this. So you mentioned the current headlines about African gangs. This is what they're calling them in the newspapers. And
unbelievable.
Well, it is pretty unbelievable, and it's cheeky because there's simple and there's smarter ways to analyze the data that's coming in. Firstly, the smartest way to look at it is that crime in Victoria is dropping, and yet youth crime is a standard metric in a global city. It's a phenomenon that exists. It's not special to Melbourne, and it's definitely not special to African communities. They are in a percentage form overrepresented in youth crime, but that's because they're overrepresented in terms of poverty in the state. And so we need to look at it's simple. We need to look at poverty, and we need to look at disconnection from society that poverty brings. And poverty really, for the generation that's arriving in it right now, is just the latest epigenetic kick in the teeth that they've experienced and it crosses demographic lines. So you could easily analyze, not to put too fine a point on it, but white Australians, and check any sector that is afflicted with poverty intergenerationally, and then see the prevalence of drugs and the worsening of drugs in that situation, and see that there's no racial divide. This isn't a cultural thing to the temptation of crime. This crosses racial boundaries, and it happens that currently the Sudanese community that's been brought to Australia in an effort to bypass their need to process any boat people or whatever the word is. Right. So they brought them from this civil war situation in Africa, and it's just a statistical thing. They just were like, well, we are the rated country for bringing in UN-approved refugees, and that might well be accurate, but what they did is they brought people from an incredibly desperate situation, and then that's a great action, that's a great philanthropic action in the world, but then refused to fund the necessary processing that would be necessary to bring people from a war zone, an intergenerational war zone, into Australia.
Yes.
So it's a combination of dodging responsibility on the planet and then refusing to fund the necessary, what would be the necessary steps to integrate people into society so that they don't end up in the poverty sector that it will inevitably lead them to criminal activity. Yes,
very good. Well, let's play another track from the new upcoming album, which is called Jail Bars. I think, is that the title or a working title? Or is that
yes, the title of the album is Jail Bars.
Yeah.
And I've tried to, I've used the spelling that's quite common here in Australia, GAOL, to differentiate it from other.
Yeah,
that's a pretty common pun in the hip-hop land of jail bars. So just to differentiate it a bit, I've used the Australian spelling.
Right. So we played a track called A Word, which is pretty interesting about, I guess it's about language itself and the power of language. Can you just give us a brief setting for this track?
Well, you've nailed it's about language. So if the first track, which is the introduction to the album, is about the effect on DNA and the temptation, then this track, A Word, is about how language controls us, and how people who, particularly some of the lads that I've encountered whose literacy is incredibly low level, again due to intergenerational deprivation. Or cultural indeed, because the indigenous population is the other overrepresented demographic in these institutions.
Yes.
They're coming from a different language background with an imperially imposed language requirement of English on in order to understand any laws and things like that.
Indeed.
So, often these lads just can't read and write. And you can imagine what effect that would have on their chances in life. But anyway, it's just a meditation almost on the ways that language controls us and how restricted we can thus be, and how that might inevitably lead to us acting out if we're not able to literally understand the laws and the unwritten standards that surround us.
Cool. Let's have a listen to the track A Word here from Hugo the Poet here on Bay FM.
What can a word be? What can a word do? A word can ease pain, a word can soothe, a word can caress, a word can bless, a word can confound, a word can make more sense than anything else. A well-chosen word can make your breath skip, a word can menace, a word can be a death threat. One expression evinces a love that defines endless, another phrase can give an innocent man a life sentence. A printing press can cause more instant death than 56 million missiles tipped with anthrax, sarin gas and bubonic plague. No weapon in existence can compare to words on a page. And on the world stage, no individual bomb is a more devastating force than the ink that delivers the declaration of war. And for war to cease, the decisive weapon we be seeking is a pen and paper to finally sign a peace treaty. What can a word be? What can a word do? What can a word mean? What can a word prove?
Sticks and stones break less bones than words do.
Does truth serve words or do words serve truth? What can a word be? What can a word do? What can a word mean? What can a word prove?
Sticks and stones break less bones than words do.
Does truth serve words or do words serve truth? Vocabulary's weaponry you can grab and control. A page can slice paper cuts, then patch up the holes. Each word you learn can be a shield against the arrows and stones. A precise scalpel, a knife or dagger to stab in their bones. The world is words and language is the map of the roads. That's why they throw the book at you to trap you in folds. A book can be a prison of religion trying to snaffle your soul. Or a book can give escapism to catapult you over the walls. A polite message can hide aggression in a passive tone. A letter can offer employment or throw you out on the road. Even a thank you note can be a shank to your throat. And immortality can be secured through inaccurate quotes. Spelling a single phrase can spell the collapse of a noble civilization, sending them straight into shackles of thrones. Like Lieutenant Cook's contract that attached Captain to boat. Language letting him circumnavigate the planet and snatch up the globe. What can a word be? What can a word do? What can a word mean? What can a word prove?
Sticks and stones break less bones than words do.
Does truth serve words or do words serve truth? What can a word be? What can a word do? What can a word mean? What can a word prove?
Sticks and stones break less bones than words do.
Does truth serve words or do words serve truth? We travel avenues tangled in the angles of cameras. And justice, a blind statute that still reads the legality statutes. While we all pray her sword sways like the magistrate's hammer. How can I obey her rules when I don't even know the rules of grammar? How can a grapher get 2 years in the slammer for writing a word over a corporate advertising banner? Why should I have to learn to read the alphabet when it's unwritten standards that linguistically dictate what you can do and cannot? When even for the illiterate, rights are given and taken away by what is written. When laws count based on the amount in your account. When the longer the numerical value you can write out, the shorter the sentence you'll be handed down. But with no connections, no money, no understanding at all. Petty crime gets you confined to these anonymous stalls. Your name gets you restrained and never recalled. And you wonder why we have to scratch our tags on these walls? What can a word be? What can a word do? What can a word mean? What can a word prove?
Sticks and stones break less bones than words do.
Does truth serve words or do words serve truth? What can a word be? What can a word do? What can a word mean? What can a word prove?
Sticks and stones break less bones than words do.
Does truth serve words or do words serve truth?
You're listening to Bay FM 99.9.
Yeah, you are tuned to Bay FM. That was Hugo the Poet. Wasn't that great? Hugo, great track. Sorry about the beginning there. As I said, we've got a few technical things going on in the studios today. We're getting some repairs. We've got a big leak in the air conditioning dropping down here and all sorts of stuff going on.
Yeah, damn.
But that doesn't matter. Yes. I love that track. You say something like no weapon in existence can compete with a word on the page or something to that effect.
Yeah,
such
no
a
weapon in existence can compare to the... no weapon delivers a more devastating force than the ink that delivers the declaration of war.
Yeah,
just a meditation on that. You know, the language that surrounds us. We take it for granted, but definitely meeting children in this situation who you know, I could tell you stories, but they can't even read or write. I just you know, that was an element of it. It got me thinking, and tagging is one of the themes in the thing. So often you get these lads and they obsessively tag this name that they've given themselves everywhere.
Yes.
And often, you know, in the past I've just seen that as just, you know, vandalism. Nothing controversial about it. It's just bad. But then I started to understand a little bit more about how invisible these children feel, and how victimized by language they in fact are. And so you know, that it makes perfect sense from that perspective to want to put your name, a name that you've given to yourself, everywhere, just to tell the world, you know, see me.
Yes, it's fantastic. What a brilliant way of looking at it. Absolutely awesome. Talking to Hugo.
Well, if I thought it, that I should have put that in the lyrics, because that's much clearer than the actual lyrics.
Well, you still got time. This is, you know,
I do still have time. Yes. That's true.
Although it does say on this list here, it says Final Master, so maybe you're going to have to change something here and there.
Yeah, well, you know, I am going to make a couple of tweaks. You guys are getting previews. I'm probably not going to change that one. I've done a film clip for it, and it's coming out pretty soon.
Yeah, excellent. Talking to Hugo the Poet, rapper and spoken word artist from Melbourne, originally from the UK, as you can hear, been here since 2007, quickly became a feature in the Northside hip-hop scene at that time, and has been on the rise ever since, and a great commentator on many, many issues. And this new project called Jail Bars, soon to be released. When is the release date for this project?
15th, so in about 10 days.
Excellent. Good, we're getting a great preview. Fantastic.
You are getting a preview, and it's also anyone who, you know, this is time for my little pitch. I'm on patreon.com / Hugo the Poet. Anyone who wants to support my work, and just, you know, I'm just aiming to be able to produce better video content and pay the people that I work with, and also get good mastering and mixing so that it all sounds great. So anyone who wants to support me gets like long previews to my work. So the album has been up for patrons for about a month now, and anyway, you know, just support my work with any amount per month that you feel is worthy, and you'll get previews to everything.
Patreon's a great it's a great platform. Patreon, Patreon. Yeah, join that. So we're nearly out of time, so I'd like to try and fit in this last track. If you want to give us a quick sketch about the last track on the album called The Trap.
Okay, I will very quickly. So the trap is based on this genre of music. It's a subsect of hip hop that young people particularly like at the moment, and it's slower. You'll hear that the beat is slower. It's not my type of hip hop. I had to be introduced to it by the boys, and I really wanted on this album to have at least a few tracks that were in this genre. This last one is an example of it. But I also found the name incredibly ironic. This trap music, lyrically, it tends to deal with topics of crime and generally glorifying crime. It's very, very, very rarely self-critical, glorifying crime and misogyny and drug taking.
Okay.
And so, you know, it's highly ironic to me, and it might well have been deliberate in the actual inception of the genre, that it's called trap music when it literally speaks to the traps that these young people are in, and I don't believe, you know, as much as the music could be seen as a protest or a cry for help, I don't believe that it's helpful. I genuinely believe that it's actually a bad influence on young people, and that's tough for me to say as a hip hop fan and a person who claims to make hip hop, that I see elements of it that are genuinely not positive. But that's the call that I'm making on this track, and you know, I'm a little bit angry on the track. There might be things that I reconsider in the future, but those are my thoughts on this genre of trap and the phenomenon of children getting trapped in these kind of cycles.
And I think there's a bit of language in this one too, so just a bit of a language warning there. Hugo, we'll have to let you go. I'll play the track and say goodbye to you now. Hugo the Poet, as he said, on Patreon, Patreon, to support him. Hugo Farrant is .com is the website, Hugo, FARRANT.com. But if you just type in Hugo the Poet, you will come up with all the stuff. Thanks for joining us, Hugo. We'll talk to you again. And
Thanks so much.
Enjoy the heat
as I
of
said,
Melbourne today. I hear it's very hot down there.
It's going to be hotter tomorrow, but I hope everyone in Byron is having a marvellous time, and it's great to talk to you, Nick. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, man. Okay.
Final chapter, final coda, final movement, final strains at the strings of your life's aria in society's ruins, scrawled on shattered walls as the final clap of the final applause dies. Any psychotherapeutic analysis is finally muted, so we can make one final attempt at the equation, trying to find a solution. Final careful scalpel cuts of your body in this autopsy of the human. Theorems of cause of death ordered according to probability of being proven. Archaeologists digging in sentimental sediments for the tomb, the final resting place of the morality of a reprobate. Conservative media licking their lips at every lick you hit and every step you take, recorded and stored on FTP servers. And when you heard sirens, the boys in blue turn up, you don't get hypnotized, you just yelling FTP, fuck the police and screaming blue murder. Final contemplation of the status of the trap star, the most appropriate nomenclature for the genre, Admiral Akbar. Oscar Wilde said we all lie in gutters, but some are staring at stars. Yeah, well, many live and die in the gutters, trying to survive, committing crimes, then staring at bars. Jail bars to escape the street, that's the government trap. Drugs in clubs and bars to escape trauma, that's the personal trap. Stealing to take part in consumer culture, that's the financial trap. Only role model is someone who raps bars, that's a cultural trap. So they told you need to escape the trap, but what are the chances of that when it's generations way back that first fell in the trap? And since you're here in the trap, where only your gang has your back and the rest of society's ready to snap and attack, you might as well be the king of the trap. Better to rule in the trap than serving the system, but trying to rule in the trap is actually serving the system. Better to rule in the trap than serving the system, but trying to rule in the trap is actually serving the system. This trap is insidious, and the only way to seek freedom seems to be rapping about it, holding guns with a team of demons, taking a gamble that you can make enough cash from trap before you get shot or arrested and claimed and capped by the trap. When you dropping bars in this session, there's cops and cars that just listen and treat the bars that you spitting like a polygraph or confession. You causing harm with a weapon, and you're supposed to keep that shit hidden, but you can't help but be spitting. So you rap bars are just snitching, detailing the licks that you hidden, the ops that you killed, the drugs that you dealt. It's like you put a wire on yourself, scribbling thoughts that are admissible in court. Once you've been caught, not even defensible by the lawyer, the label board. Meanwhile, white label boss is doing mathematics on the table, seeking the next younger thug who's ready, willing and able to be spitting the kind of bars that make the whole hood unstable, but more extreme each time to feed the insatiable taste for degradation. Remember in the past tense when Straight Outta Compton was pressed and the right-wing press was stressed about the influence of gangster rap and what it represents, and we wasn't impressed, we just laughed at the shit. We may have been right or wrong, but since then rap's devolved. Let me let you in on a tragic thought, the tragedy that this genre of trap has wrought. The malice taught, the callous criminal tactics glorified as sport. To kill or be killed, deal or be dealt, that's what they teach us. And in my less tolerant seconds, I reckon these rappers should be arrested for inciting terrorism on the same charges as hate preachers. This is the state that it's in, and in broader society, boys are told to man up. Any struggle, take that on the chin. Don't cry, any emotion except anger, hold that within. Told to man up, but have no vision to hold of a man within. This is a tragedy of the lack of clarity of the masculine. Warriors walk in the labyrinth forlorn, seeking a war they have to win. When society doesn't provide a cause sufficiently ample for them, they'll happily fight against society and everything it stands for instead. Better to rule in the trap than serve in the system, but trying to rule in the trap is actually serving the system. Better to rule in the trap than serve in the system, but trying to rule in the trap is actually serving the system. And before the flames rise from the village so hot we have to stand back, before the tears held back burst their banks and overwhelm the sandbags, before the only applause at the performance is the sound of the hand cannon clap, may we effectively analyze and dismantle this damn trap.
Bay FM 99.9, the community voice of Byron and beyond. On air and lie.
Yeah, so that's about it. That was Hugo the Poet. Community Newsroom up next. Stay tuned.